When I get nervous, sometimes I get distracted, and I was working on the, I don't see it up. We produced a findings of fact document last time, and I was going through that because I don't think some of the stuff on there is fact. And in fact, one of those items is definitely wrong. So if Rob can get that up.
I don't know how I can get it up. I don't have Gmail. Did we use Whitney's account last time?
Possibly. I logged you in with my account. I think we're gonna have to forego that. Do we have it? We have a printed copy in the minutes, right?
Yes.
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 Oh, here,
Can I
we may
use-
have,
can I
yes,
use
we may
that?
have.
That's right here. Okay, so I'm calling us to order at 7:05. Before we get started with hearings, we have a couple of matters of board business, and I have to issue a correction. One of the facts that I put out last time is not correct. It's just plain wrong. And the planning board got a hold of me and asked me to correct that. So I'll do that first, and then we'll do our election of officers. And then I'll speak briefly about, well, about the purpose of the meeting in case people are here to get information, et cetera. And I'm going to point out that, doing it now by saying it, I'm going to point out that we have two hearings tonight. One is a continuation of the hearing about Laramie Farms. They have two variances they want. And the second hearing is a new matter, a piece of new business. That's going to be second. And to be fair to that applicant and to the board, we're going to put a time limit on the second hearing for the Laramie Farms. And if we're getting to about quarter till and it looks like we're not going to wrap it up, I'm going to turn to my board and say, shall we continue this to a third hearing? Which we can do, and we may decide to do that much sooner. In fact, okay. So the corrections. Those of you who have read the minutes or were here, is anybody here now that was here last time? I know the applicants. Okay. If you saw the video, you will probably remember me saying that the planning board is considering changes to the zoning ordinance that would eliminate this height restriction and the other requirement that Laramie Farms wants a variance from, the number of primary buildings on a lot. And that's just not true. I was just flat wrong. I had bad information and I didn't check it before I came to the meeting. That's my fault. So that's not true. What was true is that there were some people talking about that as, you know, these might be some ideas for revisions that we might want to consider. I think that's as far as it ever went, but it's certainly not true that the planning board has already asked the select board or is about to ask them to put those on the warrant for next year. That's not true. So when we deliberate, my fellow boardians, we must try as best you can to discount that. All right, that's not something we should think about. We should not discount the current ordinance provisions simply because I made that mistake and put it in our heads that, you know, it's not important, because it is. The second point about all of that is during that, I said that the planning board would be revising the zoning ordinance, blah, 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 blah. And the planning board chair was concerned that I was giving the impression that the planning board was going to take it in their own hands by themselves to institute a bunch of changes to the zoning ordinance. And he asked me to try to make it clear to everybody that is not the process they're going to go through. They are going to start with some ideas, but they're going to take those ideas to the public in a number of forums and say, these are problems that we've seen with the zoning ordinance, and these are some changes that we would like your input on. So they want it very much to be a public-led process. And I promised the planning board chair that I would try to make that clear here. They don't intend any sort of a top-down change without input from the public. So I hope that clears up that mess. The next bit, when we start talking about Laramie Farms, I'm happy to hear from the public again. Well, whoever, the next bit is gonna be, we'll elect officers, so I may not be chair after I say this, but, whomever is gonna be the chair, I would hope they will, remember that we're short on time, which I'm trying to keep in mind right now too. If I were doing it, I would be limiting speakers to about 90 seconds, and I would ask people, if you just simply want to repeat what somebody else said, just raise your hand and say me too. Okay, or get up and state your name, let people know that you support that position also, but we don't need to hear a whole lot of words and take a lot of time to hear that same point again. So if you have new comments to make, please make them. If you want to support somebody else's comments, please do that briefly. This is not an information gathering session. We are not here to ask the developers to tell us about their project. We are here to get the board information to make a decision about whether to let them build their buildings taller than our zoning ordinance allows.
And change the lot.
And not change the lot, but
Whatever,
right.
let them do.
The second
more
variance we
buildings.
haven't talked more
Right.
about, much about is
Let's.
the
let's
number of
move
primary buildings
let's
on
move
a
to
lot.
The election,
Let's move on to the election. All right.
please.
So this is the first meeting that we've had after the town elections. So we have two new members on the board, Bill Finger and Dan Regan. They have been duly sworn. Celia Fierro has agreed to be our alternate in case one of us is not present. She will be present for discussions in case she has to step in at a later date, but she will not be voting in either of these two hearings tonight. Any questions on that?
Right, wow.
Is that right?
The election.
Yeah, so we've got two new duly
I know,
elected.
but I was served on the first one.
We consulted our attorney on that. Absolutely. If we've got elected officers here, they've got to serve.
We seat the alternate when one of the elected members is not present.
Correct.
So you want me to get up and leave?
No, absolutely not.
Well, tell
Stay where
them.
you are. I just can't have you vote.
Well, I
But,
don't think that's so either.
okay. Election of officers.
I nominate Mike Dean as chair.
Seconded.
Second,
Any other nominations? Public comment? All in favor?
aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. I'm chair again. Are you doing minutes? Are we gonna have Whitney do
The
them?
meetings are recorded.
Okay. Nominations for vice chair.
I volunteer to do it again.
Or I'll do it, it's my turn, whatever.
You want to keep at it? Or you want
Sure,
give it
I'm happy to
Susan?
get, I'll keep at it.
You feel strongly one way or the other?
No, not really. But we said last year that we'd alternate.
Oh, we did? Oh,
Yeah.
well, then in that case, I take it back. Sorry.
Well, I don't care.
No, then we'll alternate. That makes sense.
All right, so we have a nomination for Susan on the floor. Second,
Second,
any other nominations for vice chair? Public comment? You're not voting, Gene. Okay, all in favor?
I,
Aye. All opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Susan, you're the vice chair for this year.
Okay.
And Rob will fix the,
I think there's already another.
I think there is from
Yeah.
years in the past, right?
We all-
Okay, those are the only officers we have. Some planning boards or some zoning boards have a clerk. We don't have that clerk. Rob, any other business we need to take care of before we get into the Laramie Farms hearing?
So I would just ask that anyone that speaks, say your name before you speak, so we've got it for the minutes. That's all I request. And we'll ask the same of our virtual attendees.
Okay,
may I?
Because Whitney's gonna do our minutes from the recording, so she needs to have, say who they are when they're talking.
why don't we do this just to make sure that Whitney gets a clear recording? If you want to speak, I'll point at you. You stand up and say your name. I'll repeat it to make sure that we have it. And then I'll motion for you to go ahead.
May I make a comment?
Yes, Madeline Johnson.
My comment is that in the minutes, we have what you all said last time. So perhaps if you spoke last time, unless you have something substantially different to say this time, leave the floor to those who've not spoken, because your opinion on at least this part of the, uh, this, this, that particular initiative has been, you've said your piece, just in the interest of keeping things going. Does that make sense?
It does. Is everybody okay with that? We're not gonna shut you down. We can find out.
That's fine. So when I'm talking, you'll tell me if I repeat much.
We're asking people to auto discipline themselves.
Right. Okay, where are we? We had reviewed the findings of fact. They are in here, and I think they are not quite right. In particular, I wish we could put this on the screen. Is there just no way?
I don't, if you want to sign into Google here.
Does anybody care strongly?
Let's read them out loud and speak about them one at a time.
Let's do that. Okay, I have 25 listed.
Meetings on the website?
Meeting minutes are on the website.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So can you use the?
Oh, you can pull up the PDF of the packet.
Try that.
While you do that, I'll go through it. I'm gonna go through these kind of quickly because the board members all have them in front of them. If there's one you're not clear on, raise your hand and I'll slow down. All right. Number one, lot size is roughly 77 acres. Number two, in 2025, the planning board will ask voters to replace this height limit in the EZO with a CUP requirement. That is not true. That is not a fact. So I'm going to strike that. The number three, the property is relatively remote.
How-
I don't think that's a fact. I
don't
think that's an
a
opinion.
fact.
Right.
From what?
Exactly. The property's in the R1 district. R1 limits building height to 35 feet. R1 allows only one primary building on a lot. The master plan encourages multifamily housing and increased housing density. Zoning ordinance changes are contemplated to increase housing stock. I don't feel comfortable having that in as a fact upon which we base our decision.
Can we substitute it with another fact, which is that the state of New Hampshire has expressed that one of the goals has expressed one of their priorities is to increase housing stock. The state of New Hampshire says that.
I think we probably could, if everybody on the board is comfortable with that as a fact.
Is that our finding of fact because the state says it?
Do we have a racks?
We do, let me see if I have it here.
Say and so.
What is she raising on?
She's
Is
saying,
that where
She's saying-
exactly, where the
As
state
finding of
says
fact, we should say that
that's one of
state
the
of New
goals. That's
Hampshire
what I
has-
thought.
Doesn't it state a particular type of
made a
housing, like
goal,
workforce?
made
housing?
as a goal.
No.
for the
No,
state.
it just says that it's part of the state's whatever goals is to increase housing.
So I'm gonna strike that fact number 8, and if you find something you wanna add, we'll put it on the bottom of the list and renumber.
Yeah.
Okay, development will provide sorely needed housing in a mix of sizes and prices.
Take out sorely needed, that's opinion.
Sorely needed struck. All regular access will be through Route 4. All regular access will be through Route 4. Yes, sir, in the back.
What is the range of prices that the development is offering?
That's,
If you had that as a fact.
You're right, we did. I don't know. I was probably gonna strike that because I don't know that it's a fact. I think what we could say instead is that the developer has asserted they will provide housing in a range of prices, and
those are
sizes.
not particularly relevant to what
it's
we're
not
talking about.
particularly relevant, no.
Take it out?
Yes,
So it becomes development will provide housing.
which is generic enough just to strike. Okay, a gated emergency access road will give onto Maple Street. This lot, the lot is difficult to use, and these variances would allow the developer to achieve their goals and fit our master plan, comma, use less green space.
There's questions?
Master plan states that
I
development should be
like
tailored
that,
to the
because
land.
it's a master plan.
Hold on just a second. I need to hear this first.
I believe the master plan says that development should be tailored to the land, not exceptions created to make them fit.
Can we have your name?
My name is Tony DeFelice. I'm a May Street resident. Full disclosure, I'm a Canaan resident. I
Okay,
own property,
He's in
on
the-
May and Maple Street in,
you're in a butter. You have standing.
I'm not in the butter. I'm about 205 feet away from the development.
Isn't your property on Maple Street in Enfield? You received the notice in the mail saying you're in
I
a
did
butter?
not receive a notice. I inquired if I should be in a butter based on the right of way. I was told I was not in the butter.
Okay,
Mike,
Why does the public get to comment on our findings of fact? I haven't seen us do that before.
because I want it perfectly clear. I want to hear objections. I want to hear if people have an objection to and think that something is not a fact. I don't want to hear afterwards that, oh, that's not a fact. We didn't think that was true.
Why can't we add? You just read the minutes. Can we add? Because that wasn't really voted on when we did it. So
I'm not sure.
I don't see why not. You're taking out things.
Oh, you want to add facts?
Yes,
Yes, certainly.
okay.
Yeah, no problem. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't think that's a fact. I think that's an opinion put forth by the developers that we concurred with, but I don't think it's a fact we should find. There it is. Great. Number 12.
I think number 12 comes out because it's opinion, not fact.
yeah, I think
Agree.
I think we all agree.
All right, Enfield measures building height from peak to lowest point, which is unusual. Those are both facts. If we measure it as the other places do, the proposed buildings would nearly comply.
Have we skipped over the access to Route 4? Are we going back to that?
Is that a fact? Is that on this list of facts?
It is number 10.
It is, and it is a fact.
Yeah,
That's a fact.
that's the proposed. It's that's the proposed plan.
My concern is who's going to pay for widening Route 4 into a interstate highway.
That's not our.
We need your name,
Mike Michaels,
Mike Michaels,
Pillsbury Street, Enfield.
Pillsbury Street, Enfield, and that's a good question for the
Not
planning,
this.
for the planning board.
So we're not talking about that now.
No,
Correct.
Thank
We're
you.
talking about height and number of buildings on the land.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Michaels. And some of these facts don't seem relevant, but they're not directly relevant to the height question. Enfield measures building height from peak to lowest point. Did I just cut someone off?
No, go ahead. I'll jump in after.
Okay. Which is unusual. If we measured as most other places do, the proposed buildings would nearly comply. The tallest buildings would be strike is 73 feet by Enfield's measuring methods. Developer asserts this could add as much as 35 million to the town tax base, the valuation. I'm not sure that's relevant. It's a fact.
if you said they assert, I mean, that's what they say. It's a fact that they said that. It's not that a fact that
Yes.
it's true.
Yes.
I
That is
would
why it
put a
says
period
developer
after
asserts.
base, because the valuation doesn't make sense.
Done. 16, no information is yet available about the increased cost of services. Mr. Michael, to your point. Mark McKeon, licensed appraiser number 3 in New Hampshire, visited and testifies this won't hurt property values. That's a fact. I would rather see an appraisal by a local expert. We have opinion on record from Lisa? No. Sorry. Is Lisa here tonight?
Lisa,
It's not Lisa, Layla. We have a real estate agent who was here last time.
Yeah, Layla,
She's-
Tarantelli, whatever, she's
Tarantelli,
married
yeah.
to Mark Tarantelli.
Right.
New in town.
Yeah, so I'd like to see
Last
like the
year.
Wymans come and do an appraisal or do an estimate, somebody like that. Number 18, this would be the largest development in Enfield's history.
Yeah, it should say would be.
Yeah, I'm correcting that. Lakeview is only 150 units. Yes, ma'am.
In theory, an appraiser is like it's like a bonded thing. I mean, in theory, they have to say,
Yeah,
Take out the second sentence. It's not relevant.
Lakeview is only 150 units.
Yeah, that's not relevant.
131 is the right number, but that's, if you're taking it out.
Yeah, we'll take it out.
Isn't that just backup for the fact that it's the largest development?
I thought I heard somebody want to say something. Somebody interject.
And I think 19 isn't relevant.
It's in there because we're being asked also to consider the number of primary buildings on the lot. And when I asked if there had ever, when I asked the zoning administrator, who is also our planning administrator, if there had ever been problems because of having those multiple buildings on the Lakeview lot, he said, no,
I don't know.
never
We
been
had
an
a lot
issue.
of setback.
Really tied into the sewer.
Lot.
what is?
I'm
We had
sorry?
a lot of problems here.
19 says multiple primary buildings on Lakeview have never caused a problem for us.
Except the sewer.
Well, that's their problem.
It's a town.
It's a town problem.
too, Because it had They had a-
Ourselves.
pond, which,
Should we strike that?
I would, because it's Lakeview. Instead of us.
All right.
Instead of this particular development.
All right. Development will be on town sewer and water. The fire chiefs,
how do we know that?
because they said it will be,
Who
and
said it?
It's been provided for by the town.
the town says this
And
is,
the developer said.
town
that
says
they-
Yeah,
they have
I think that's a fact.
Yeah,
Has to have this town sewer. and water.
the fire chief's professional opinion is that the height alone would not be a fire risk. Subdivision of this property is not in the town's interest. I don't think that's a fact. I think one of us, if they believe that, can argue that in support of the decision. Proposal meets the density goals in the zoning ordinance, and this is where I got lost studying the zoning ordinance, trying to find support for that, and I couldn't.
I would say, instead of goals, I would say it meets the density allowed in the zoning ordinance.
I didn't hear you, Rob.
The proposal meets the density allowed by the zoning ordinance.
How about does not exceed the densities allowed in the zoning ordinance? Is that,
Sounds good.
Okay.
okay? Sorry for the big pause, Whitney. That was me writing the notes that you have already seen. 24, developer asserts they won't proceed without these two variances.
Didn't they say they can't
Can't.
proceed?
They did say that. They, can't, won't. Very few other buildings in town are taller than the buildings being proposed. We asked our minister, just a minute, Mr. Klug,
That strikes me as utterly irrelevant to the discussion at hand.
it may well be.
I
Yeah.
like that struck.
I'm not gonna strike that. But thank you.
Again, it's something that they have said. It's not something that it's a fact that they said it.
That seemed. Yeah, I don't like it either, Mr. Klug. I didn't like it either, but it seemed important. It seemed a point they wanted considered. And so it felt to me worth including in the list of facts that we found during the presentation.
I don't think I don't know.
May we,
I don't think it's,
are you suggesting that
Remember you should listen
the
all the time.
applicant said that?
Yes,
Yes, a number of times we asked if there were
I think.
other
I think
heights
it- I
you
think
can
it
deal with?
Could read, other buildings in the town are taller than the buildings being proposed. Not very few other, I think it just should read other.
Are you,
What are you
we're
talking
talking
about?
about 24.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We haven't gotten to 25 yet.
That's all right. The point in number 25, maybe I've written it wrong, is that there aren't many buildings in town that are over 75 feet tall.
Are there any?
Yes.
Sure.
There are a
the
couple of
churches, right,
the
the
church
churches.
steeples.
And the Great
The
Stone
elementary
Building.
You
School,
say that
Well,
sewer,
great stone dwelling,
water, sewer will be, how do we know that?
the Methodist church.
Nothing's been done about that,
Because the town ordinance requires them to connect to them.
but that doesn't mean they haven't. It says that it will have sewer and water, well, we don't, it hasn't happened, has it?
I think,
It will.
I think that we can keep that in, Sealy.
You think what?
I think we can keep it in. What do you think they're gonna do? Put in a septic system for that? I mean, it's in,
No, not at all, but I would, they don't have it as yet. Okay, there might be reasons that they can't get it. It might be water, not enough water, whatever. None, don't always take every word like it's, it's there, but it isn't.
Would you feel more comfortable if we said the developer plans to, it's planned for the development to be connected to the town sewer and water?
I would say plan, I wouldn't say it is gonna be.
does Rob have something to say about this? Because that may have to do with what the town, as much that what the town does as anything else.
Wait a minute. Is this relevant to our current discussion? Mr. Finger says no.
No.
Mr. Morris says no from the audience.
No, I was just gonna say we'll be connected and we do have capacity, if that matters.
Yeah.
And it's required in the ordinance
Excellent.
to
All
have
right.
water and sewer for this type of project.
Okay.
So that was a.
So it is a fact. It's okay to leave it in there, but
They can't take advantage of the density without it.
Got it.
okay.
If you go back
And the
one
water
sentence,
tower's up there and the road's in place.
Hang on, Mike.
I mean, doesn't, it is fact.
Yes. Can we hear from Mr. Michaels?
if you go back one sentence to the would not be, could not be, should not be, will not be is a promise by the developers, which they would be held to legally. Could not be is a law that's made by the town or whomever makes the laws, and that would be held. And so they're two different things, should not be or will not be.
I agree with you. However, our minutes don't legally bind anybody to anything.
I see.
Our notices of decision, which incorporate the motions we make and any conditions that we put on those decisions, those are the legally binding documents that go with the, and I might be off about this.
If it goes to
My point
court,
is
you're in
that-
trouble.
Yeah.
If it's written right there, they're gonna,
Okay,
Hey, Mike, could we go
Moving
back
on.
to number 13 now, please?
yes,
It states Enfield measures building height from peak to lowest point, which is unusual. If we measured, as most other places do, the proposed building would be nearly comply. That's, to me, it's a too qualitative statement, for saying it's a finding of fact. I'd like to back that up with some specific numbers.
you know what I'd like to do is end the sentence at the comma. Enfield measures building height from peak to lowest point.
Because it's kind of.
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
it doesn't matter what
Right.
other places do.
Thank you.
It matters that it complies.
Right, this
to
was a
the-
statement made by the applicant's lawyer during his presentation. And I didn't note down the various examples that he made.
What did we decide to do about 25?
The applicant asked that we change that somehow.
To read, if I may. Strictly strike very few.
No, that completely changes the meaning of the sentence.
The fact, I think that the fact that the applicant is trying to make is that there are other buildings in town that are taller than the buildings being proposed. Not that there are very few, that there are other buildings,
That's,
but this isn't a unique.
except that's not necessarily speaking to what the applicant says. This is a fact that in Enfield, very few buildings, regardless of what the applicant says, there are very few buildings in Enfield that are taller than that
And
proposed.
that's fine. It's just an acknowledgement that there are other buildings
Yes.
in town that are taller.
That's correct, but
That's
this is not relevant to, is not speaking to what you were
That's fine.
saying.
I have a question.
I could say other buildings in town are taller, though very few of them. Tony, you're gonna pop.
I was just wondering along that same lines, how many of those buildings were built or approved after zoning
Don't know.
was adopted by the town?
Don't know.
The Great Stone Dwelling was finished in 1841.
So a little before.
Precede zoning.
Right. Yes, can I have your name, please, ma'am?
Oh, Judy Sade, I'm at Lakeview.
Judy,
Sade, S-A-I-D-E, Sade.
Judy Sade, S-A-I-D-E from Lakeview. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to know if there are any residential buildings in Enfield that are taller than 35 feet.
I don't know.
I think that's the relevant, because if it's a church, I mean, you expect the spire to be
Right.
higher than 35
Right.
feet.
The Great Stone Dwelling.
That's a good segue. Mr. Taylor, I think we asked last time, or maybe you volunteered, maybe I'm misremembering, to find out if there were any other buildings that were larger than 75 feet, taller than 75 feet.
I have not made a measurement of any buildings around town. We assume it's the church steeples. How tall is the Great Stone Dwelling?
About 75 feet.
And this, you said the school?
I'm sure the school's taller than 70 feet. It's
Might be. right.
practically three stories. It's a big building.
Interestingly, the school is exempt from our zoning ordinance because they're a municipality.
Oh,
All right.
All right, I think we have our facts in order. Celie, did you want to add one? Was there a
No
fact? you
more
wanted to
than
add?
one. I'd like to say that,
It's about height and about
well, I
number of
talk about
buildings.
the height, I want to talk about, the master plan and I worked on the master plan for some of you who don't. And in my view, and I think in a lot of people's view that worked on that, it was not the intent to have, housing at this number. And the intent was to have, housing with the village and the housing that can be attached to other houses, maybe some of the historical society, buildings can have it, but we were not talking about 400, 500 units.
Can I-
Okay?
Can I ask you to, do you have any particular facts that you want me to add to the list of facts?
Well, that's a fact.
Okay,
It's your fact, you are, are you saying it is a fact that you do not believe that it was the intention? You just said, I don't believe it was the intention of the planning board. Is that a fact?
No, I'm saying it's not even in the master plan to have housing that's like 700 housing units and so on. It's always been geared to, and it says for the whole thing, which you can put down as a thing, that any building, anything that we do in Enfield for the future has to be in the best interest of the town and work within the environments of the town and be closer to the character of the town. These do not, this
Okay,
is
how-
not
but
part of
see,
the character.
How are you planning to state that as? What would it be,
Want
fact
me to
number
read it?
24? No, Celie, to put it in the format of these facts, what are you trying to say? That is we're finishing up this. For fact number, I don't know, 26, what is the fact that you want to add?
More than one.
Well, let's
Fact
just,
that the master plan does not dictate this number of housing to be done. That's one fact. the other fact is,
But I mean, you can't put a negative fact. The housing, how can you put a negative fact? Because the master plan doesn't say lots of things, but that doesn't mean that it's a fact.
but they're saying it's a fact in the list.
We took those out, the things about the master plan.
Well, I think he's just misleading the whole thing.
If the master
But-
plan said, specifically, no big building, for example, no big buildings, we could put that in as a fact. But if the master plan simply doesn't say anything about creating large concentrations of the population, and I'm using that language advisedly,
No,
if the zoning ordinance said that, for example, we could say violates the spirit of the ordinance, and in fact, it does. One of
it does
the,
violate the ordinance.
one of the purposes of the ordinance is to prevent undue concentrations of the population. I struggle with the term undue.
Well, because of the number? I mean, nobody.
I don't know what I don't know whether, okay, the undue just lost meaning in my head.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move on. I'm
Okay.
also gonna tell you that I did a lot of work on the contours and the soils. And that piece of land and where the planning is, for the buildings is all, it's not flat. Okay, it's raises up and down, so all the way across, it's got different contours. And the contours are,
Would you like me to say that the contours of the land varies considerably across the lot?
the whole lot, I mean,
Okay.
from down to the Maple Street. Part of the problem the last time with the Laramie project was, the other one were the wetlands. And these lots the wetlands go into.
Okay.
We're not doing
We're
wetlands.
doing
No, but
wetlands.
we're talking about, you're
Hey.
talking
Really, we're
about
talking
having
about the-
heights. Can the
Facts for the,
land support this kind of building?
that's not a
Yeah.
fact that we can say in this. We could say there are wetlands have been observed on the property. We could certainly say that. That is a fact. Would you be content with that as a fact, that there are wetlands on the property?
And there's almost steep slopes, it'd be 15%.
Okay,
And I know they brought something in today, but it's just the land is not suited for this.
okay, that's not a fact. The fact is that there's a steep slope
According to
and
our
that there,
zoning ordinance, according,
there's,
to what
the
we-
facts are that there are wetlands and that there is a steep slope on the site. I think we can all agree on that.
I've written those in.
Okay. I'm just
Okay.
concerned we don't, I think all of us want to keep this moving and we want to hear what you
the
say.
terrain, the whole.
Celia, I think everybody wants to hear what you say, but in the context, perhaps when we have the discussion about it, if it's a fact, like the water, that's okay. But I think we want to move on and start to discuss the things.
Point of order, you're talking about 7:45 that you want to shuffle the developers out the door. I think you have to allow them time because you've absorbed a lot of time here to do their presentation. Mike said, I'd like to
Yep.
keep this till 4:08. It's 4:08 is.
He already did it.
7:45 is when we make the go, no go decision, so to speak.
There's facts being suggested that, we have the information on, we'd like to at least present it.
Would you
because
please?
You might change your mind on what you were saying in the fact, and not fact.
Come on up, guys.
Come on up.
I didn't want to interrupt, but.
No.
No, we're at that point.
Well, I'm sorry.
What's that?
Is that just to tell us?
I don't mind. I don't mind.
Okay.
I don't mind anybody. I'm a little flustered at the moment, so I'm happy to have
Do you
people
mind me like
assisting. No.
bringing down the hammers just because?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's absolutely fine.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Introduce yourself for the record for the minutes.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, my name is Stephen Doherty, the developer, board members. I live in Salem, New Hampshire. And at our last meeting, again, my name is Stephen Doherty. I'm from Salem, New Hampshire. I'm a developer.
If you have questions for Mr. Doherty, raise your hand. I'll call on you.
And
Okay? Don't just shout them out.
at our last meeting, the things that were left unanswered that you asked us to go accomplish, there were line of sight, Maple Street. It was, can you lower the heights of the roofs? Okay, what else do we have? It was, could you fly the site with a drone and provide us with some photographs?
Which are fantastic. Thank you.
Which we have done, okay? So we have done all of that stuff. Now, and one other one was the steep sloping, okay? One of the questions was, are there steep slopes on the site? Do you conform with the ordinance? And we will address that in a few moments. But what I want to address is the first thing for us is the height. All right, so your master plan does say you have a need for up to 300 houses by 2030. You have a need for that starting today, moving forward. All right, so we have accomplished that. And when we designed this site, we did the apartment buildings based on the theme of the Shaker style, the Shaker Museum. As you can see here, this is the gable end of our building. Oh, you gotta hear them? Okay, here you go. This is the gable end of our building. And this is the gable end of the Shaker Museum. So we kept that theme in mind, where the master plan says, try to keep it in the theme of our community. So that's how that was designed. And it's pretty remarkable how close they are. The same roof pitches, pretty close to the same dimensions, pretty close to the same height. Okay, the Shaker Museum is 60 feet wide, we're 80 feet wide. Okay, the heights are very similar if you count the stories, all the stories. The reason our buildings ended up being higher was because we decided to put parking underneath the buildings. By doing that, it raised the building roughly 12, maybe 15 feet. And by doing that, it took away from more impervious material outside and more green space outside. So the master plan talked about having less amount of impervious material. And we decided to put the stuff under the building. So a lot of that parking from outside has gone away. Okay, so we fit that criteria. When we designed the project, we designed it in mind with the master plan. We followed the master plan step by step by step. Now, as for the amount of buildings that are on the site, that has nothing to do with this board. That was approved overwhelmingly to increase the density of sites like this serviced by sewer and water. And that's what we did. We didn't increase the density. The town had done that. So we're not asking to give us more than we are allowed. Okay, so let me talk about the roof heights. Okay. One of the so we did go back to our architect. Right? And what we did, ended up stay. One of the board members said, can you chop off the roof? Can you lower that roof to get it down a little bit? So what we did was, the architect came in and he lowered the roof from, we have the other picture here. Let me see. Okay. So that's the gable side. So what we did, that doesn't show this. Well, in this picture here, we chopped the roof off, so the roof is flat. Okay, and it took away, if you look at the gable end, right here, you look at this end here, it doesn't look like these anymore. Okay, so as soon as we saw that, I said, sheesh. I go, this is a no-go for me. Okay, This is what we really like. This is where we're headed. I'm like, oh my God. So then we decided there's another way that we might be able to accomplish this. All right, because it was the last folks from last meeting were talking about the line of sight from Maple Street looking up. What are we gonna see? If you lower those buildings, so we have that accomplished, and we'll show you that in a few moments. So then we got together and we said, listen, how do we get, if this is low at 8 feet, how do I still get 8 feet and keep this look? Then we decided, what if we drop the site, the apartment site? What if we drop that 8 feet?
You mean take another 8 feet out of the
I mean,
ground?
dig,
Out of the ground.
okay.
Out of the ground. So that's that other picture with the gable end. I think that's what this is. Is this the drop in 8 feet, Cal?
Yeah.
So this is what the roof would look like if it were flat or
And
dropped. at
Okay,
8 feet.
great.
All right, so the line of sight, if I took 8 feet off the building, or I dropped the building 8 feet, would be the same. Okay, and that's, we thought, was kind of a winner for both sides. Because we're thinking, hey, they got the 8 feet down. They have the line of sight corrected, and it was win-win for both the town and for us.
So Steve, excuse me, what happens to the windows on the first floor? Are you now,
Oh, no, we're dropping the whole site.
so
Nothing's
you're
gonna happen.
scooping out all the
We're gonna
soil?
take it
You're
right
not
out.
just digging it?
Correct, correct. We're gonna just drop it. We're not changing the height, but we're changing the elevation.
Okay.
All right,
I just have a super quick, is that ledge there? Like, what does that mean for you? And
we had
like,
some
what
borings
do you,
done. We don't believe there's gonna be, at this point, any ledge in our way,
okay,
okay? And if there were, we'd have to get it out of there.
okay,
But we're dropping that site 8 feet,
okay,
just the apartment complex.
Right.
The townhouses, we don't have an issue with those guys. Those are pretty good. All right, so now the next thing we had was the line of sight. Right, what is it gonna look like from Maple Street looking up? What are we gonna see? All right, some people said, hey, why don't we fly a balloon? Right? And we said, we got a better one. Why don't we go up there with a drone? Why don't we get all our elevations? Why don't we put it on the computer?
Mhm.
And let's generate what they're gonna see, okay?
Or-
And we did that. And I'm gonna bring up right now, Kyle Dubay, our engineer, to talk about this. This is the line of sight. This is what you're gonna see. And that's all computer generated from the actual elevations.
What house is that from?
This is from, there's 3 trailers on Maple Street.
Yeah.
That's from those, that's the most open area. Okay, so somebody had clear cut. This is roughly the property line. Someone had clear cut from here to the line. And
So
someone on the, and then the owner had,
We're gonna show you a picture.
is
Okay.
this what, is the,
that's from that side.
Yeah,
it's
we're gonna
from
show
this,
you.
okay.
Yeah.
So if you, my name is Carl Dubay and I'm gonna speak up if I can. If I'm too loud, tell me. If I'm not loud enough, tell me. All right, my name is Carl Dubay. We're engineers out of, London area, surveyors, planners, landscape architects. So Rob, if you pull down, the PDF, we did a bunch of photos with a drone, a couple drones. You gotta pull it way down.
Yep, hold on, did it. My computer's a little laggy here, but hold on. Here we go.
So first, we're gonna show you some pictures that we just took, I think we're Monday or something. Just keep going. There's photos down, all the way down the bottom.
Trying to here, hold on. Yeah, I'm gonna even go.
Yeah, I can land on any of them and we'll just find the right one. Boy, that's slow.
That's
So
the
you
last
wanna
one
go
from the
up.
top.
Yeah, just click above it once, not clicking above it. Yeah.
So. It's just taking a long time. It's because we're on.
That's a good one. Christmas break. So we have Maple Street along the bottom here. There's some homes along Maple Street. You can go to the next one, we took a lot of oblique photographs as well as high precision topo and everything. So we go to this one. I need to find it. There's another one, a gentleman. Okay, so there's some homes along Maple Street here. This is what we're talking about. A gentleman that lives in one of these homes said, hey, I go on my back deck, I look out, I want to see, what did we see, right? So, I'm not sure which home the gentleman lives in, but he goes on the back deck and he looks out, and, the land in back here is someone else's property, not ours, and I don't think it's his either, someone else's that they cleared. And that's this land in here. So if you go to, the previous photo.
Yeah.
One
more up. Is that?
It blows it up. You'll see the rest of the hillside. Okay, that's pretty good. So our project is in the hillside here beyond this field. And this was cleared not too long ago in this area. And then, so I just want to give you the sense of scale of Maple Street, the homes on Maple Street, and then when you look up through these wooded areas and field areas, and the hill keeps going up and up and up. So we surveyed all of that. So then if we go back to the building section that the architect prepared from our data, it's up here somewhere. Yeah, there it is.
Sorry, everybody. It's a little laggy, I apologize. Let's go down one. Down one.
And the shaker, I was doing a lot of research at it's a beautiful building that, it's communal, that was their apartments at the time. Right? I don't know how, maybe you guys know how many people lived in that building.
300, well, no, there were 300 people who were Shakers, and they lived in the Greystone dwelling and in the North family, and there was a South family.
I think
But
it was
a
Phil
total
comment.
of 300 people.
Okay, so, we're at 300 units. We're showing an apartment building that's 80 feet wide instead of 60. The reason is because of Steve mentioned is the parking garage underneath. By code, we need an 80-foot wide building width to accommodate that parking, so we can have more green space, et cetera. And then you just walk in, go up an elevator to your unit, which is really nice. So we drew a section. You probably can't see it from here, but it's all in the materials. A real scaled section. We did not expand scales or anything like that. Thing's funny looking. This is a real true to scale section. And when you're standing on Maple Street or in the backyard there, and you look up, you're gonna keep looking up. The hillside keeps going up beyond our property. Our property line is here. It's just woods and it keeps going up, 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 up. At pretty much the same angle as plus or minus in here. Someone mentioned 15%. Some areas are 20, some areas are 24%. Your steep slope ordinance is 25%, actually greater than 25%. Well, we'll get into that in a second. So when you look up this area here, there's actually a backdrop of existing trees beyond our property, not on our property. There's more trees, and they're greater than 70 feet high, and they're pretty thick through there, woods. So actually, when you stand in the back and you look up through the stuff that's out there, it's brown now, but our architect, I think, colored it in as green. A lot of debris out there. The buildings would actually be tucked up into the hillside, and the tops of the roofs would be at or below the tree line that's behind them. So it's not like you're gonna look up the buildings and you see the roofs sticking out into the blue sky. You're not gonna see that at all. And we did that with the scale drawings. And you can see actually that even if we had a 35-foot technically compliant with this town's ordinance, which by the way, our firm does work all over the state. We probably have projects in 50 different towns and cities in New Hampshire only. And,
Carl, we have to work with what we have.
right, and the ordinance says all the way to the bottom, doesn't matter where,
Right.
and all the way to the top, except for a spire or something.
We
like
hear
that.
you, we're ridiculous. Let's
And,
move on.
but it is what it is. And I just like one side note is if you have a regular house that you built or you live in, maybe some of you guys live in a house that's 2 stories with a peak roof, a nice substantial peak roof, and it happens to have a walkout basement, you're probably not in compliance with this ordinance, and you wouldn't even know it. Because if you measure from the peak to the bottom,
No.
you're probably gonna be around 35 feet or greater. We build a lot of houses and that's the way they are. Not to say that a lot of houses in Enfield are like that or not, but and I'll answer your
No.
question in a minute, sir.
No, you won't.
Okay, so, We just
Not
want
trying
to
to
tell
rush
you
it,
that,
just want you to-
the distance from 900 feet away to these buildings is so far away. Whether it was 30 feet, 35 feet high or an average grade plane, a lot of towns, they do the average of the grade plane below and the average of the roof. And then they, do that differential, which we're actually, in pretty good shape.
Mr.
You
Dubay,
you wouldn't even see the difference. It would be like 2 degrees, 2 degrees. I know you guys did all your math yesterday with the solar stuff. 2 degrees is very imperceptible. So that's the height issue. And I'd like to just answer the question on the slope and then,
before you get to the slope,
if that's okay with the board.
Rob, I don't know if this is possible, but can you blow up those pictures? So I can hardly see it from here. I don't think we can back row
I
can
think
see
it
it.
might be in
They're in
here.
I have it. I'm more worried about folks in the room.
Oh,
You know,
So what you're showing there, yeah, just the picture on the right. So you see those little dots. Can you point to the roofs first? Those are the, okay.
in here and then in here.
So this is great. I think it's great work that you've done. I'd also suggest, you're looking at a June view. When we get to December, we're gonna be looking right at those buildings.
So what he said is there's people calling
trees.
that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a mixture of- There's a mixture of deciduous, a conifer, there's, we can certainly render that, we can blow it up, but whether you're at 35 feet or 55 feet, the height, whether you see through a seasonality or not, you're gonna, the fact of the matter is, you're still gonna see the pine trees in back and deciduous that are 70 feet high, a mixture of those, and you won't see the roof sticking out in the blue sky. But you'll have a mixture.
Again, I like what you guys are doing. I respect the fact that you're talking about knocking the land down by 8 feet.
Yeah.
But I think we're being generous here with these,
Well, we'd
pictures.
be happy to model a winter view,
I think,
and we'd be happy to turn this into brown as it is now. No, it's not
Yeah.
green.
frankly,
brown.
if they were also painted a different color, a darker color, it might help as well.
Sure, yeah, I mean.
I just want to point out that.
Yeah.
This is kind of best case scenario.
Yeah, so we'll refine these and provide blow-ups of this.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So on the slope issue, there was a question last time on slopes, and so while you're finding it, there was a slope figure that had some orange color on it, up somewhere up.
Oh, it was it up?
I think I saw it.
Had it. I just saw it.
So there was a question on that. So the ordinance, without getting into a long drawn out discussion on ordinance, if you read the ordinance, the correct section that talks about slopes, there's 2 sections in the ordinance that talks about slopes. One is the steep slope ordinance, and the other one has to do with slope categories and development on a property within the slope categories. And that, the intent of that by the zoning ordinance is to make sure you're not taking a piece of property and overdeveloping it because of slopes, just like you mentioned. So we looked at both. And the ordinance has definitions. And it also says that, okay, if you don't have anything, use the town's steep slope plan. It's an 8.5 by 11, you can barely see it. And it says, if you want more information, go to the NRCS SCS database, national database on slopes. You call up a site, you blow it up, it'll show you what slopes you have by B, C, D, E slopes.
Yeah.
And if you want more information, you go to that. Our ordinance, this town's ordinance talks about that definition. Go to that database. And we went to that database and we put that on the plan. We also did what the ordinance talked about was, well, if you still want more data, more refinement, go out and do your own survey. Do your real survey, which we did, the 2-foot contours on our site and everywhere else surrounding the site, and use that real survey. And so we did that. So that information is sort of color coded on here for 2 purposes. One is, where are the steep slopes on this property? And those are defined by, and run-on definitions and going back and forth in the ordinance. It talks about a run of greater than 25% in a 100-foot swath. Because, you can step on a rock and the edge of that rock, is a steep slope, it's almost vertical, right? So you have to go to a certain level of standard of care. And the ordinance was smartly written to talk about, well, how do you measure? You measure a little rock that you can step up on, that's vertical, or do you measure 100 foot? Some towns say 50, some towns say, 300 feet, 150 feet, you guys say 100 feet. So we did that, and you measure, and you're right, someone was talking about slopes, well, some of them are 15, some of them are 20, there might be, it looks like there's some that are steep. Definition of steep is greater than 25%. A lot of these areas here are almost 20, they're almost 25 feet, 25%, but they're not 25. They're not over 25% except one little area, and that's right here, area 13. So area 13 is a steep slope. By the definition, it's the only steep slope on the property. Granted, there's slopes on the property, and we deal with that. That's why we gave you grading plans of the whole project already, even though we're not talking about planning board issues. We knew that was gonna come up, so we graded out the site to standards, and it all works. That area 13 of steep slope, which is just over 25%, is not being disturbed.
12 is the area that's 20 to 25%.
12 is in a D slope, and that is 20 to 25%.
Yeah.
Not over 25%. As a matter of fact, some of that's like range in 15 to 20. It's a mixture. So we just, did a summary here. Furthermore, the ordinance says that you can't put a building in steep slopes. You can put other things in steep slopes. It doesn't, it says you can do an access drive at steep slopes. It doesn't talk about the ancillary sloping that you could replant or anything like that. But we said, you know what, we don't want to get into any arguments with anyone. We showed on the latest grading plans you have, we're not touching the steep slope.
And your purple line shows us that you're not going to build in the steep slope.
Right, so if you look at the grading plan that we updated, it's in there somewhere. You don't have to really look, but I guarantee you it's in there and it shows, and we have some slopes and some stabilized areas, walls and everything, but we kept out of it because we could. Depending on how the ordinance is jurisdicted, we could probably shave into the slope a little, replant it, landscape it. But we decided not to do it. We didn't want to get in an argument with anyone, but these are the facts. So I know you're talking about facts about steep slopes and everything, but we have to be careful. You guys all live in Enfield. You guys know what steep slopes are. But there's a definition in the ordinance we have to deal with on steep slopes. It's defined. So we go by the facts of that and we follow that religiously. Just want to point that out. And the last item on the slopes is another resource, they call it resource area, is this notion of, all right, okay, you got through that, but we still don't want you to overdevelop the lot. And we're not overdeveloping the lot. And you define that. You actually define it with quantitative information. In the ordinance, you guys talk about, the town talks about slope categories and the percent of disturbance in those slopes, and they have to be not exceeding a certain percentage by slope category. So all of a sudden your head's, you're putting spreadsheets together on slope categories and areas and summarizing and making sure that the 5% limit, 10% limit, 20% limit, are we compliant with all of those subcategories? And the answer is yes, we are compliant. So it's very difficult, and I applaud the town to writing this slope resource, because the slope is a resource, and wetlands and everything else, is you're one of the only towns that actually takes slopes and splits them up into subcategories and tells the development team, you better meet those subcategory maximum percentages in the area that you're developing. That's a good way to go from subjective to quantifiable, and we did it. So when we saw those charts that you said we needed to follow, we're like, yes, we have some rules here and we're gonna follow the rules, and that's what we did. So, and that'll carry forward with permitting and planning board and everything else.
Okay, we gotta wrap up.
Okay, so, I'd love to take some samples of heights on different buildings in town, including houses that, a lot of people live in that probably, if you measure, you're over 35 feet. Where aren't sewer and water, that's a requirement. The wetlands, we had all the wetlands mapped on the property by a certified wetland scientist. We checked them against the previous approvals and designs and existing conditions surveys that were done before. There are wetlands on the site. but you also have quantifiable criteria for wetlands in the ordinance, and we meet those. I can get into it if you want, but it's not, we're not asking for any relief on the wetlands. There are gonna be a few wetland impacts, of course, but there are certain criteria that says a building has to be a certain distance from a wetland. And if you're within, if you're less than that distance, you gotta go to the ZBA to get relief.
I hear you getting into it.
We don't need it. So anyhow. But we'd be happy to provide more information if you need it.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Mike, can I ask you a question?
Yes,
Carl, the pictures that you show on page number 3, that we talked about, maybe showing the trees in the winter, are these heights after you've knocked out the 8 feet?
Yeah, so
If you're looking at these pictures, right, yes, because those trees that are
So
high,
those pictures right there,
yeah,
see,
yeah, that's the same as that.
Yes,
Those are the actual trees.
yes,
And
sir, we
what
just did that.
Before the 8 feet, the building would have been a little bit above that.
like 8 feet above.
So all of, just let you know, all the grading plans that we provided to you
Yeah.
in the package are all updated to reflect the 8-foot drop in the site on apartments. It was very easy to do actually, and it was just the right thing, and that site balanced and everything. You cut on one side, fill on the other. We do it all the time doing, high-end apartments and condos and townhouses. Yeah, it's great, straightforward.
Is the intent to preserve that foliage that's shown in those pictures?
Yeah, there's a tree, on the grading plans, there are areas that were clear cut off our property and the property over the course of many years. But there are also areas that are of existing trees, stands that we're saving. You can see those on the plans. This area is the apartment site was the worst area it was the worst area that we did a section through. We could have done it through other areas that weren't so bad. That was the worst area. That's the area that you guys wanted to see. But if we did a section through the townhouses, there's like tons of trees that we're leaving in those areas around the townhouses. And we figured we wouldn't even bother with that because you'd say, well, that's not what we asked you to do. We wanted a section over here where the homes are on Maple Street.
thank you, Carl.
Yes, sir.
Briefly,
And he mentioned that.
Say, you need to
yeah,
stand,
name, I'm
state
sorry.
your name.
You don't have to stand up, just give us
But,
your
yeah.
name.
Okay, I don't understand. Keith Thomas. Okay,
Keith Thomas.
yeah, Shaker Boulevard. The question I have is, you mentioned that you're planning on having parking under the building. I'd like to know how many how many are you planning on per unit, or how many are you planning on underneath? Plus, you're gonna have visitors and things. Are you planning on parking outside of that?
Good question for the planning board. Sorry, but we gotta stay on track. Steve,
Patton,
Mr. Patton?
this relates to heights of
Mm-hmm.
buildings. When you drop the building area 8 feet, you will have to cut into the high slope and make that either steeper or make it go back into the bank more. So you already have like 15 to 20% slope in your building area. What is the percentage of slope you intend to create on the bank behind the buildings? Thank you.
Briefly, if you can. If you cannot.
It's, we like to do we call it a 2-to-1 slope. That's a standard slope that you don't need to stabilize mechanically or structurally or anything. You can plant on it, you can restore, you can even mow it if you really need to. But a standard in apartment, and even just residential, high-end residential is 2-to-1. We can go 1.5 to 1. We can go 3 to 1. So 1.5 to 1 needs special attention, but we can do that. We've done it many times. It's still vegetated and landscaped. We can even do retaining walls. We have some limited amount of retaining walls on the plan that would be beautiful. But we have many mechanical devices at our disposal with slopes that we renaturalize all the way to a retaining wall. But most of the time, the answer to the question is 2 to 1, sometimes 1.5 to 1 if we need to. And if we're in a drainage area, drainage pond area, that's a 3 to 1 per AOT criteria, but we use all of those different slopes and they work beautifully. And those are all, maintained by the, the vendor that maintains the property, not
Okay.
the town.
Guys, take this to the planning board. It's not directly relevant to our height discussion. Any other new comments from the public? New comment?
Yes, it is.
Shoot,
Greg Sargent, 65 Maple Street. I'm a director butter of the project there.
Greg Sargent.
Greg Sargent, yes, sir. So you said the proposed plan is 8 feet worth of drop off the roof height.
Correct.
Okay,
Well, not off the roof. It would drop.
you're gonna drop the whole building
Right.
8 feet. And you said that the garage, parking garage underneath the buildings is also 12 foot tall,
About that.
Because you need the
About
height.
that.
Right, right.
right?
Yeah.
So, and that will not infringe on the amount of units in the buildings. Am I correct on that?
It won't affect anything in the building.
So the buildings will still have that amount.
You take the whole thing from the parking, because don't forget, in this exercise, we're measuring from the lowest point entering into the garage, okay, to the peak. So if we take this whole building and drop it 8 feet, we're not affecting anything in the building, we're not affecting the garage.
Okay.
It's all coming down 8
Right.
feet. So where the garage slab was, it's now 8 feet lower.
Right.
Okay, we got that.
So
Can
if,
you make your comment, please?
yeah, so if in fact the garage was not part of the project and the 8 feet wasn't on top, how tall is the building?
Well, the garage is an extreme measurement all the way to the bottom of the door.
But how tall would the
And
building?
that's like, though, would be 12 feet less,
Plus the 8 feet,
approximately.
plus the 8 feet makes it 20 foot shorter, doesn't it?
Yeah, it would, but you wouldn't have a garage.
Well, not really.
It would be no
The
garage.
roof, the roof's not changing. If we eliminate the garage,
Mhm.
right, all we would wipe out is the garage level. The roof will be the same, so you're dropping it, now, the 8 feet,
Mhm.
and then you're picking up the 12.
Right.
Okay,
You're-
But the garage
we're
is
not
gone.
gonna lower the
So
customer.
if the
That's
garage
correct.
is gone,
Gentlemen,
That's correct, yes.
we have now shrunk. the
Gentlemen.
building.
stop. You're still asking for 75 feet?
Yes,
There we go. They're not changing the height of the buildings.
No, I was just
In the
making the
plan.
point that we can, in fact, lower the building and keep the units and make it so that it's more middle ground for everybody.
But there's the problem with the permeability. So anyway,
But that's,
we move
Right.
on. Yeah.
okay, do we think we're gonna decide this tonight?
You should.
You may wish us to do so.
Sure.
Yeah, you may wish us to do so. It would fit with your values. Yes, sir. I will accept that definition of should. However, to be fair to the board and the other people waiting, we might not. Do you think that we can decide this tonight?
No.
That we still have never
Yes.
discussed it amongst ourselves.
I agree. I think we need time to discuss it without clarifying further. So when we come in next time, we would start our discussion, make our decision and move from there. Go
Could I
ahead.
make a suggestion?
Yeah.
If anybody on the board or your discretion, the public wants to send the developer away with some more homework to come back with next time, I have one thing I would like to see from them.
What's that?
So it piggybacks on the comment that you made earlier about the assessment that was done by the appraisal services. The company, McKinnon Appraisal, their territory, as they define it on their website, are substantial parts of Hillsborough, Rockingham, and Merrimack counties. They don't profess to have expertise in Grafton County.
Right.
I too would encourage you to look for a local appraiser and would love to hear their opinion.
Well,
Rob, do you have suggestions?
I think that even though that's their primary area of work, the appraisers all follow the same criteria.
Can I save us some time and just say the board would like you to get a local appraiser?
Or is that be cutting to the chase?
Thank you.
I don't feel that's necessary because they have a professional code.
Motion?
So you said that's too.
I don't feel that it's necessary. Appraisers have professional codes about how they do things. They have standards and they have licenses and whatever. It seems to me that that is in a way
I
that,
don't know.
what?
I frankly, I would assume that
I have a
somebody
whole-
who's local knows better than somebody who isn't.
I have a whole series of questions I'd like to ask about this appraisal, but I won't in the interest of time.
Yeah.
So I would like to see a local appraisal, I guess, would just be cutting to the chase as well.
Make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that I encourage the developer to seek a local appraiser's opinion. Why are you shaking your head?
The board asks the developer to provide a local appraiser's professional opinion,
Okay.
not encourage. We
I
ask, yeah. But this is your plan.
Opinion of what though? I mean, there could be 20 different items.
It was the
Sure.
question on what
A
the market
proposed
value.
project will have any negative impact on the values of abutting and nearby residential uses.
Right, that's their job.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, we're okay with that.
All
I
right,
think
thank you.
he,
Yeah, we'll go with that.
do we want to hear this gentleman's, perhaps he has a professional comment to make?
Who are you?
Daniel Muller from Cronin Bissell and Zalinsky, I'm the attorney for the developer.
Okay,
And it's more of a question than clarification. And this is based on some of your discussion earlier. Obviously, we had a residential appraiser provide the initial opinion.
Right.
Are you looking for any real estate professional? Because I understand you took a real estate professional's opinion beforehand, or at least one was given. But that was the suggestion.
A
So I
comment
just want to
from-
make sure.
So here's what
that was not a professional opinion.
It
that
was just a comment, a public comment.
Okay.
So I'm making a motion that the board would like to see a certified appraisal service that is expertise in Grafton County, specifically the Upper Valley would be preferred, to provide their opinion on if this project would have any negative impact on the values of abutting and nearby residential uses.
Properties, yeah. Second? Do we have a second? Anybody who agrees with that opinion and would like to see it voted on or discussed would second at this point. Otherwise, the motion dies. I second. Discussion?
As I say, appraisers have professional standards. I know from experience and dealing with things that they also talk to local people. That is a certified, as I recall from the document package from the previous time, that's certified. That means the guy has like put his professional reputation on the line, has followed the standards. I personally think we've got enough issues to go through that is the least of them. And I don't think that we need to prolong this process or ask them to jump through any more hoops. We've got plenty to talk about. They answered some very technical, serious questions. They've done a lot. I think we should just move on.
But if,
Madeline, I
I wanna,
just want to say I respect your opinion. I respectfully disagree, however.
Okay,
And
we'll
I
vote
think
on it.
I think we owe it to the people that live on Maple Street and the people that are abutters to go this extra step.
I'll make a hold for you. Celia has a comment in the
I
discussion
just
about this.
wanted to,
Is it about asking for another appraisal?
yes, it is, and, made me lose that train of thought. It's part of the criteria for variance,
Yes.
about the values of homes.
Okay, and they
So I
provided
think it's part of what he says. I support what he wants.
Which they've already, whatever, they've provided us. It's us now saying that for some reason we doubt the professional competence of this
Just because
person.
they have expertise, that's a bit about
That's
the
an-
website in this
That's
country.
great. You want,
Right.
you want what's.
You both made your points. We've heard them. Bill, got anything to say about this?
I mostly agree with Madeline.
All right. Susan?
I absolutely agree with Madeline. I think that they have hired a professional appraiser, that he probably works all over the state, and it's just one more hoop. I think we need to proceed. I will vote no on this motion.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion to ask for another appraisal? All in favor of the motion to ask for another appraisal?
Second that motion.
It's been seconded. All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Nay. Did you want to vote in favor of the motion?
Yes,
Okay, you gotta say yeah.
You needed to vote.
I thought I made the motion. I didn't, but thank you.
No.
Uh,
Okay, so I've got 1 in favor and 4 against.
Yes.
I'm going with her argument. That's fine. All right. Motion defeated. We will not ask the developer to provide a second appraisal. Okay, would anybody like to make a motion to continue this to a third hearing, to our next regularly scheduled meeting?
I would.
Second,
Second.
discussion?
We have another hearing tonight,
We have another hearing we need to start.
and I have a personal opinion because tonight is the night I talk with my granddaughter in Australia at 8:30.
Okay,
May 14th, Mike.
okay, all in favor of moving to the May 14th or
Continuing to.
continuing to the May 14th?
Is there any way at the we can say at the May 14th, we're finally going to have the discussion amongst us that the public comment at this point is closed. We
Yes,
have all the information and we are finally going to talk about it and come to a resolution.
we
That's the way
can,
I
as
feel.
unless the developer brings more evidence that we need to consider and that the public needs to comment on.
Can I say that
Wait,
the
Wait.
drone was one of the things I suggested. And I am delighted with the pictures that show me what it looks like up there, and I don't have to go.
good. Does that answer your question?
My question?
Yeah.
I feel as if I have all the information I need now. I'd like to get going on this and I feel that I love the public. I feel that we have heard what the public feels. And I think that we need now to discuss this in the terms of what it is that we talk about, not what the public thinks are their issues.
I'm okay with that as long as the developers, if the developers present new information at the next hearing, like if we've asked them for something and they bring it back, then we need to give the public a chance to comment on that information.
We'll never get.
I feel satisfied with what they have given us.
Okay,
I feel they've worked very hard to answer our questions. I think at this point, they've come from far away. I think that at least we owe it to them to say, thank you very much. We're now going to talk about this and come to a decision. That is what I feel. So I
Thank you.
vote to move it to next time, but that we begin with our discussion of the 5 criteria that we have to respond to.
I agree with Madeline.
all in favor of moving to the next meeting?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So this hearing is continued to the May 14th meeting. We do not anticipate taking public comment at that meeting. However, if the developer presents new information that you must comment on, I'll let you make a comment, just ask you to be brief.
So could we had a public comment now because we all came here and all of a sudden it's postponed?
I'm sorry, what?
I'm sorry, I missed my chance. No one said it was time for public comment.
It's 2 people with their hands.
What would you like, what comment would you like to make?
My name is Robert Barr. I live in.
Robert
Enfield.
Barr.
I came in here to hear about all these bad guys who were doing this bad thing up on the hillside. And they've convinced me they've done everything they can and they're staying within the planning rules that have been set for them. We need housing in town. My daughter-in-law and granddaughter had to live with me until I found them a rental unit. There's just nothing available. So we need the housing. It's on the very edge of town. If they all turn right, which is probably what they'll do coming out of the driveway, we'll never see them.
Thank you, Mr. Barr. I saw a hand in the back of the room. As long as it's a new comment and it's relevant to the height, you may speak. New comment relevant to the height.
Regarding the.
You have to give your name.
Sharon Buffet of Enfield.
Sharon, the appraisal information is not new and it's in the minutes from last time.
The discussion that we had tonight, it's just a point of clarification. I have to ask one question. That's all.
If you can ask your question briefly,
Yeah.
I'll allow it.
All that I'm asking, the appraiser that already, looked at the property. Was that appraiser given the task to look at the impact of this development, as Mr. Reagan had suggested, on the, residents on Maple Street?
I'm gonna refer you to the minutes which contain the appraiser's letter, and you can read what that appraiser wrote. Okay? Thank you, ma'am. Okay, this hearing is continued, and we're gonna start our next hearing. If anybody's not here for the next hearing, feel free to go. Mr. Taylor's asking for a 5-minute break,
Thank you.
which will probably go to 10 minutes if I know myself. I feel you, Bob. I feel.
Got to do what you got to do.
I got shopping.
Not the way.
Yeah.
You're making this, I'm looking at this scale.
You want.
We'll see it. Lighting. The lighting style.
It's not our. You're saying, yeah, no, thank you.
This one is going to continue. Yeah, I think the same.
I switched around.
I gotta tell you.
Give me strategic, sir. So. What, why is that? But they can come back, they can come back. That's my concern. Most people don't expect to like look out their backs. They are.
Here, this is a better map.
They're saying it's like there's. It's still coming up.
Green is not white. I don't think the Lord might have found it.
You know.
There we can see that. You can see where the, you can see where the.
Well, so you're.
Anyway, see you later.
No, is there a new packet?
These guys.
I gotta give us water.
I let my car.
Is it the same one?
All right, we're going today, so I just threw it in my bag.
I left mine in the car, it was empty, and I sort of left, well, whatever. I think it's next. They're drinking that?
In all.
No, there's bottled water and
I
there's
need
cups.
Okay, anyway, I think I'm gonna.
And there's tap if you want the water out of the tap. It's right there by the coffee machine.
Are substantial parts of these three areas.
Yeah, I mean, it's just typical areas where they, I mean, it's not like the rules are totally different.
So they're not. So the other thing, the line of question.
All right, we gotta get started.
Yep. Thank these people for their patience. For their share.
What's your name?
So guys, you,
Thank you for your patience.
No problem.
we expect this to go quicker, but we might.
I hope so. I don't.
As long as it's not over 75 feet, you're fine.
We. Yeah, we don't generally extend meetings.
That's okay.
Continue,
We're good.
continue hearings.
This is a complex,
Absolutely.
highly emotional.
Complex because of the resistance and
It's a what?
shut up.
Yeah, it's complex and people are very emotional about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
If you stripped all that out of it, it would be pretty straightforward. But, that, we can't do that.
all right, let's hear about your,
Okay, excuse me, one second, Phil. Mr. Chairman, I am a butter to the properties. And I've known Kathy and Phil for 25 years and
You have to recuse yourself.
we've raised our children together, so I will be recusing myself.
Thank you. Okay.
Sealy, you're on
Sealy.
stage.
You're on stage.
Yeah.
All right. Let the minutes show that Mr.
I'm
Regan
gonna check
has,
and see whether that's true.
I need to be able to speak so that she can hear me on the recording. Let the minutes show that Mr. Regan has recused himself and that I have seated Celia Offiero as a voting member for this hearing. And Rob, will you please read the introduction to the hearing?
Yes, where did I go with my agenda? So I have. Somebody's gonna have to load the agenda. I'll read it.
Here,
You know, I can read it. That's just, I like to give you something to say.
Love doing it.
keep you from falling asleep.
All right, this is Enfield Land Use Case Z 24-04-01, where Philip and Kathleen Tersadi are seeking variance to Enfield's zoning ordinance, Article 4, Section 401, Paragraph L, to replace an existing garage with a new building that will still be within the required setbacks. The subject property is located at 89 Algonquin Road, map 44, lot 28, in the R3 zoning district. It is owned by Philip Tersadi, trustee, and Kathleen Tersadi, trustee.
Do you have a presentation or do you just want to?
I can give a quick review of the highlights. Thank you for considering our request. We have a building. I've shown you a picture of the existing building that's fairly close to Algonquin Road. I think it was built in the.
Do you have another packet? I forgot to bring.
Yes. Sorry.
Sorry.
I haven't looked at it.
Okay.
I always look. That's what's.
I'll take them through, Rob. Yeah,
I
that,
went through this.
I think that building was put up in about the 40s.
So you have a garage here that's up on the road. You want to move it down onto your property, but it'll still be within the setback.
Yeah, I want to move it about 10 feet off the road, keeping the driveway access. I have a shoreland permit approved to do this part of the project.
Can I even ask a nuts and bolts?
Stop interrupting the man. Let him finish.
Well, some of it says garage and some of it says it's a bunkhouse. And some of it says you're gonna put in a bunkhouse, and some of it says
No
you're gonna
bunkhouse.
put in a garage. Which word is it?
Yeah, it used to be a bunkhouse, for many years.
Before.
And when Scott Williams did the plan, he labeled the building bunkhouse. It's not a bunkhouse. It's gonna be a garage.
What you're gonna build is gonna be a garage.
Correct.
And you have a two-car garage in your house.
I do. Yes.
I went and looked.
Yeah, thanks.
I always go and look.
Okay. Yeah, the building is very close to the road, and actually one of the road agents, Scott, when he was out one day, when they were repaved, he was talking to me about that, and he said it would be good if we make more room for snow. So that was one of the goals here, is to make more room for the snow banks in the winter. Also to improve the storm runoff in that area. So water comes down the hill there. Past my house.
I'm writing up facts.
Like I said, we do have a shoreland approved permit to do the project with all the non-permeable impermeable surfaces calculated. And like I said, it was engineered by Scott Williams Pathways about 2 years ago. When we did our other project that you talked about. Our goal is to make the building less non-conforming than it is. Right now, it's about 3 feet off the road on the closest corner. And we would like to make more room over that for a bunch of reasons. One is safety for the road, the snowbanks I talked about. Also to make it look a little better. Like I said, the building was put up in the 40s, and a new modern building would look better. And
Conform to the neighborhood.
and yes,
A little louder.
Would conform to the neighborhood more closely. If
Okay.
it was replaced with a new structure.
Goes to improving property values.
Correct.
yes.
How far off the road or the property line would the new garage be?
It would be right on the property line, the 10 feet off it's on the plan, 10 feet off the existing edge of the road is right on the property line. If you look at the picture.
So are you saying the bunkhouse,
Thank you.
are you saying the bunkhouse is not on your property?
Part of the bunkhouse is what is now deemed as the road that ends those
What
points.
it is.
Oh, on the right of way.
Previously,
Very nice.
The house is down
it's very
there and it's got a
non-conforming at this
two-car
point.
garage.
Yes.
Okay, here, Mike, you wanna look at this?
existing building?
It's-
Yes.
Yes, it's storage now.
Of course.
Mike, this might help.
I know.
I'm trying to write.
Yeah, I
notes.
gave.
Rob's
I'm
got,
gonna look at I'm gonna look on
You
here.
want a copy?
Rob's got a pretty. I can get it.
I have my copy. I don't want to spread it out.
Oh, would you like a big map?
I got one.
Here's the road,
Yeah.
here's the existing bunkhouse. So you're sort of straightening it out
And moving it.
and moving it back, okay.
He's got a two-car garage down here. It's really steep to get down to this house.
I don't think that matters, they've got the
This is the-
footprint, they have the right to that, they're just making it better.
Well, they don't have a right to, they have a right to rebuild it within the exact same footprint.
That's it.
Yes.
Once they decide to change that, it's a new building as far as we're concerned.
It's a new
Got it.
building.
Now,
Yeah.
we can say, yeah, it's making it less non. Where would this have to be? Sorry, my level.
Yeah,
If,
but
it can make it less non-conforming, would have to be.
Well, why
Yeah,
can't
we should
you
probably
use their
shouldn't be
garage
talking
here,
amongst
just take
ourselves.
it
We
down?
probably shouldn't be talking amongst ourselves like this,
It's okay.
okay,
We're on camera and we're in
Okay.
public. We're noticed.
okay. But it is in the public interest not to have this thing,
Yeah, I agree.
all right,
Bill, we're looking at this and
we're just
thinking,
trying to
Sure.
figure out.
Absolutely.
So you haven't, if I wanna understand correctly, this is like an automobile entrance, right?
Yes,
You enter
correct.
from there, okay,
Yes.
sorry, just trying to understand.
Yeah.
Can you
No,
see
to
this?
get to there, there's an automobile entrance there and there's a mess there. It really needs to come down. I would agree with them.
Yes, it's a very old
Yeah,
structure,
again,
obviously.
But they have a two-car garage down here.
Okay,
May I speak to that point?
With a
Mine's.
steep hill
Yeah.
to get up to the road. And I think they're worried about the snow in the winter is the way I
When we
understood
get,
it.
Okay.
especially when we get older, sure,
okay,
exactly.
It won't be moved or anything on because it's sort of thin like that.
Yeah.
So I think whether they have another garage, I don't think is relevant.
No, but I wanted to know why they didn't use their garage. And I went and looked at it and I can see why they don't want to use their garage in the winter. They could get into it, but getting
Never get
out
back
might
out.
be a problem.
Yes.
Especially as we get older, obviously.
Right, so
Just want to see a little bit of that.
let's focus the discussion, or at least what I think the discussion is. We're talking about whether to allow them to build a new building on the property line, completely inside of the setbacks. Technically, once you ask to build outside of the footprint of the original building,
Correct.
it's a new structure.
Okay.
And it's as if that building didn't exist. So you've come to us and you've said, we'd like to build a building here.
Yes.
So we can't regard it as moving a building,
Okay.
even though we do recognize that. Yeah, okay.
Is
So-
the new building the same size as the current
Good
building?
question. What are the dimensions, please?
12 by 22 is the building size.
All right. Old and new buildings.
If that's a two-car garage that you're gonna put there, how are you gonna support it?
No, it'll be
No,
a one-car garage.
It would be a one-car, well, the picture,
Is a one,
No,
those are just
yeah.
facsimiles. Those are not pictures we're drawing. We just need
this
to
is a
put something
12
in
by
there.
22 building, so just one car goes in the end.
oh, okay.
Yeah, and this goes in the,
This was more show the
Short.
character of the building than, yeah, but you can see the footprint here is 12 by.
the entrance is on the short end, not on the long
Correct.
side. Wow.
Single story.
Yes.
Any other questions for the applicants from the board?
We didn't really let you finish
You
your.
said you had the
presentation.
shoreline, you said you had the shoreline.
We had the
permit.
shoreline.
So, and, okay, won't change the permeable surface because it's the same size as the existing.
Well, it was a new driveway.
This is the new driveway space, yeah.
That was all calculated into the shoreline and everything.
Yes. Yeah.
Is like the DES shoreline permit? Is it-
Yes,
Yeah.
it's on the approvals there. I am removing the deck there, so that will be minus the deck. There's an existing deck there that I'm taking off.
If you're removing the deck, what is she doing?
I have two,
Well, there's a staircase up to this building that kind of hangs out into
Yes,
nowhere.
that will not be on the
And
new
that will be
building.
gone, won't it?
Right, the stair and the little landing area at the top will
No,
not.
no, it's another set of stairs. she's
Oh, the
talking about.
stairs up.
There's a
to
little, that's what
way?
the propane guy uses those stairs to fill the propane tank. So I have to also make sure the propane tank is 10 feet from the building. I talked to Liam about that. So I have to figure out a location for the propane tank.
That's not true.
Okay.
Why can't you push this back inside the setbacks?
There's no roof.
There's no room.
What's there? I haven't been out to look.
The house. We're on a third of an acre.
Well, I wanted access from the road.
We don't have 24 foot back and 30 foot back. We don't have the distance.
I think there's,
Where's the setbacks?
it's shown here on there's a dotted line. It shows a setback.
The long dashes?
Yeah,
This is a drain pipe.
It's
Wait,
a
this is-
tiny little lot, like
it's
a
the,
great big.
it says Town of Enfield zoning,
30
front
foot.
setback 30 feet. It's this line here. It's this line here.
This one.
Yeah.
We
Okay,
have to be inside that line to meet.
okay,
Where's the,
And this is the same
Oh, I
steep,
see.
hill-
here's the line.
this is the same steep hill all the way around, all the way in front.
Mhm.
There's a steep banking. There's a steep banking all along here. When you go down into the garage, it's really steep.
It's all terraced. The whole lot is terraced.
Yeah, but
No, but the
I don't know
driveway
the
is-
number of feet down, but it's a lot of feet down.
It's
On the
about,
top of the work
it's about
driveway.
20 feet from the top of the, I believe, 20, maybe
Yeah,
24.
it's like,
Yeah, it's a large drop, correct.
yeah, it's a large drop, and it's really steep. It's
So-
not gradual.
No, this is just here, right?
And so anywhere here, it's steep.
Yeah.
I don't know if it shows that on that thing, but yeah, well, see how close those dotted lines
Yeah.
are together?
Yeah,
I just think that it's more disruption.
But the house really fills the lot.
yeah, it's not a big lot,
No, it's like quarter of an acre.
as they are.
It's a third, yeah.
As they are.
Depends how you measure it, but it's about a third of an acre.
Yeah.
It says something like 0.25.
Well, that's because the way they measure it from aerial, so
Oh, I see.
not on the hill. So they project it up into the X, Y
They did, but I
plane.
don't care.
So
I mean,
it's not-
but the DES. is
It's not like
see
it's, since it's on a hill, it feels a little bigger.
Just a second. Two conversations going at the same time.
Yeah.
Yes, shows us that they're not changing radically, they're not covered on that.
I read the,
What we're talking about over here is how much is there a change in the impermeable surface area? And I know you already talked about that with this group, but sometimes Celia,
Right, yeah,
you're
of course.
overhearing, so I want
Right.
to make sure she's got.
Right, I understand.
I have a question. You have the edge of the water at time of survey.
Yeah,
And then you have a deck.
Existing timber deck,
Right.
existing
And then it
boathouse.
goes to the existing boathouse. And then you have the other line that gives you the high water mark.
Ordinary
that-
high water line.
Yeah,
The boathouse
Up
is on
further,
somebody
up here.
else's property.
Well,
isn't
this one's somebody else's property and this one is
There.
it
theirs.
makes a big difference in what it is. I don't understand that.
Well.
Is it relevant?
Have to,
Yes.
because this is what they're dealing with here.
But you're also dealing with they're gonna
It
change,
isn't
they're
relevant.
gonna put a gravel drive.
It isn't relevant, hasn't got anything to do with their request.
A lot, really.
Not in this work.
so the only change will be up here by the road.
We're seeing a label here that says gravel driveway. Is this all new construction?
No,
Is any of this being done now, or is this all in place?
it's all in place.
The septic's in place?
Oh, yeah.
That
Absolutely.
gravel driveway's already
Yeah,
in
yeah,
place?
yeah.
So the only changes will be to tear down this old building?
Yeah,
put in-
just this,
Just this
just
corner.
this corner right here we're talking about.
Did you think this was all?
Yeah, I
I
did. So
think that makes.
I
it a
guess
little
it's
simpler.
not, it's not impacting more.
Yeah, this is the only changes that we're looking at.
Right, just that
Okay,
corner. So, yeah,
Now, Rob said you guys were having a conversation also. Do I need to hear about that?
No, I had just asked
Hold on,
her,
you-
I know he did, we were just discussing where the driveway, the current driveway was.
Okay, all right.
We were just discussing the plan.
And I think Celia and I were just talking about that.
Yeah, and anyway,
All right.
she had seen it and was just
It's
explaining to me
straight
what she had
It's
seen.
incredibly steep. I
Okay,
mean, like on the
Okay.
other road, you're at the
Get this
level of the second floor.
Party going.
all right. We need a motion. And we need a second in support of that motion. Then we will discuss.
We need to hear from a butters.
Is there any public comment in support or against?
Yeah, Dan Regan in support. Everything that Trasati's do has the lake in mind. It has the neighborhood in mind, and we see it as a very positive contribution.
Dan Regan, speaking as a member of the public tonight in support of the Trasatis. He says everything they do is done with the lake in mind, and he thinks they'll do a very good job of this. Is that a good summary?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I move that we put.
We have
this-
another.
I got one more,
we do.
I got one more comment. Mr.
Steve Patton.
Steve Patton.
I support the Trasati's because if you don't let them move, put in a new building, they can keep up the old building as forever and be in the way with it.
Sorry, I said anything.
I'll be quick.
The town manager wants to speak, Mike.
Sorry, we can't hear from the town tonight. Hang on, Ed, let me make this note here.
What's the difference in size between your bunkhouse and what you're gonna put in?
Exact
So
same,
Keep it the same size.
exact same size.
Yes.
Is it a fact that the bunkhouse blocks the snow removal from the road?
The snow is against the bunkhouse.
But the snowbanks.
I support what Steve said. I'm a neighbor as well. I'm not speaking on behalf of the town.
Oh, public comment from Ed Morris,
Yes,
resident of the town of Enfield,
yes, Algonquin Road.
not
Do you
speaking
agree
on
with
behalf of the
Steve
town.
That moving it back will help with snow removal and it will improve the look and function of Algonquin Road.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't hear what he said either.
He said he supports what Steve Bushy said.
Oh.
He's speaking as a private citizen. Steve Patton. Sorry.
Just don't call me late for dinner.
All right.
Shirley Green wants to speak.
Ms. Green, can you give me just a second, please?
Or if you have to say something that hasn't already been said.
I don't plan to.
Okay.
Ms. Green, what is your comment, please?
I agree with the comments that have been made.
You also are speaking in support of the Trissades. You all are just so easy.
She's also a resident of Algonquin.
Okay, so I've got written here as
Long time.
long time, right? 3 abutters speak in support of this variance. Okay, motion?
Move to grant the variance.
No, we need to move.
We need to put it on the floor.
Yes,
Move to put it
to
on the
close
floor.
public comment and discuss the,
You do that by making a motion.
exactly,
I got it.
I move.
Susan's moving.
Oh, okay.
She wants to skip, but she's so fast.
I know, who's on first? I second Susan's motion.
We're good. I'm
Yeah.
unflustered.
Okay.
All right. If you hadn't noticed, I got a little flustered earlier and Madeline took over and drove for a little while for me and I really appreciated that. Okay, move to grant the motion as requested.
Move to grant the variance as requested.
Thank you. We have a second?
Bill has seconded.
Any further discussion?
Looks like a good idea. The old one needs to be torn down.
Yeah, going over the criteria, it's definitely in the public interest not to have that by the road. It certainly was not gonna harm the values of the properties around it. If anything else, I think substantial justice is certainly being done. And what's number 5? The hardship, they don't really have any other choice and it's not, whatever, it's not
Well
causing a
done.
problem anyway, so there.
It's not as precisely put as I would, but I agree with you on all points.
I think not granting a variance would cause more harm than granting it.
Yep. All right, for the minutes, we'd like it noted specifically that we did consider all the criteria and we think that it's in the public interest to get that building further back away from the road. If we don't grant the variance, they can't do that. So we're granting the variance in the interest of the public. We do not believe it will reduce the property values. We think the public justice, substantial justice criteria is met in that we would suggest anybody else in the situation do the same thing. And it doesn't harm the public interest okay, that's a tough one. But we think it's okay. And spirit of the ordinance is met in that we are trying to improve the use of the land.
Does not alter the character of the neighborhood or threaten public health, safety, or welfare.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Finger had a good point about the hardship. Any further discussion? All right, the question before you is whether we shall grant the variance as requested. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? I hear no horses.
5-0.
5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Well, it was a good presentation. You did it right.
Thank you. We had good help from Rob.
All right, last thing we need to do is our minutes.
March 12th minutes, and I move we put them on the floor.
On the
Like
table.
literally.
Seconded.
Woo!
Okay, looking at the minutes,
I
Susan, did either of you find anything particularly wrong?
confess I did not.
It's missing, the minutes are missing that Sealy was appointed to be, an alternate.
Alternate, yes.
Right, okay, at the very end of the meeting, we moved and seconded and voted. What do we? Yeah. I think it was unanimously. I can't remember if we had 5 or 4 voting members at the time. To appoint Sealy as an alternate for this season. And so we need that added to the minutes. You can put it down there toward the end. And I have the revised findings of fact, which I'm going to give to Rob, and you can edit them from line 224 all the way down. And I have some other notes on there that I'm going to cross out.
But I couldn't find any typographical errors in the rest of the minutes. The rest of the minutes were good.
High praise. High praise. Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes
Motion.
as amended?
Motion to approve the minutes as corrected with the caveat that we need to see them again with the thing for Sealy in there.
Then we're not approving them. Why don't we just say
No, we don't need to see them again. If they're wrong when they get out there, she'll do an administrative correction and post the corrected minute.
Okay,
Yeah, but we can approve them with that amendment.
okay, approve the minutes as amended with the findings of fact and the addition of Sealy's appointment as alternate.
That's beautiful.
Perfect.
Second.
Second.
Bill Finger beat. All right. All in favor?
Aye. Move to adjourn.
Second.
Doesn't need a second.
Hey, Mike, will there be any more findings of fact from tonight that will go into the ones that were created last?
Yes.
But they'll be on next month's minutes.
26, contours of the land are vary considerably across the lot.
Yeah.
27, wetlands exist on the property.
Yeah.
28, no steep slope areas in the building areas.
Yes.
That's not the best writing, but if you know that, I mean, the technical
None of the
definition.
developments is into steep sloping.
Yeah. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you for your attention
And patience.
and patience.
How many of you believe that this is gonna help our taxes go down?
I don't think it'll make that much difference after what we learned about Methodist Hill, that it doesn't make that much difference.
It's arithmetic.
Yes.
Yeah, you have a higher.
I need a financial model to look at that. It's one of the things the planning board needs to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at the total tax value for the town.
That's not-
500 million.
I'm gonna
It's
tell
only
you, the town is not gonna,
10%.
it's gonna cost the town money and
Not much. Oh, sorry.
What do you
Please, go
mean
ahead.
not much? What do you think's
Wait,
gonna happen to the
Hold on, guys,
services?
hold on. We need to get Rob to stop the recording, and we have to be very careful. Don't stop the recording yet. We have to be very careful not to talk about the subject matter of a hearing
I'm talking
before us.
cost.
So we can't talk about the height or the
Yeah.
Well, I'm not talking about,
buildings. You stop the recording.
I
please?
just think that
Is the meeting adjourned?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I did think adding almost 900 people
Wait, you
to the
keep,
town.
Stevie, before you said it was 200, then it was
I meant
500,
the
then it's
units.
900.